Okay. What do you mean by concepts? Accounting concepts. Tell me, what do you mean by concepts? What is a concept? Actually, the concept lesson is there in your syllabus before some chapters back. Right? In the school, you may have discussed concepts before you go to some lessons. But we are going to discuss concepts only today, after completion of many lessons. While you ask me, sir, don't we discuss concepts? Then I told you to learn concepts, you should have a certain basic understanding. But I think by the time you all are having that basic understanding, so we are in a position to discuss the concepts. The basic idea. Concept means the basic policies and assumptions used to prepare financial statements. Yes, say enough. Nice. The concept means generally accepted accounting principles. Caps. Generally accepted accounting principles. Some principles which we use in the process of preparation of financial statements. Those are called as concepts. Some call these as underlying accounting assumptions. Concepts are sort of assumptions. See, when you take a set of financial statements into your hand, right? You take a set of financial statements into your hand. I take this set of financial statements to my hand. When I take this, I have a prior assumption that these financial statements are prepared in accordance with accounting concepts. I am not going to assume that these financial statements may have violated the accounting concepts. I am not going to think in that way. I think all the financial statements should be prepared in accordance with accounting concepts. The concept should be there. Understand? Therefore, these are called as assumptions. Right? I'm asking you a little question. Are these rules? Are accounting concepts rules? Answer is no. Are these laws? Are these laws? Are these regulations? Answer should be no. These are practices. These are practices. Right? So, is it compulsory to follow accounting concepts in the process of preparing accounts? Is it compulsory to follow accounting concepts? Answer is no. If you want, can you prepare accounts without applying accounting concepts? Answer is, can you prepare accounts without applying accounting concepts? Answer is yes. Answer is yes. I will give a very simple example to understand the meaning of concepts properly. That is, if you ride a motor bicycle, or otherwise, if you travel by a motorbike, it is compulsory to wear a helmet. You can't ride this motor bicycle without a helmet. At the time you are riding, if police uncle stop the vehicle, stop the bike, definitely he will say, I'm going to show against you, not show the some compensations or something, right? You have to pay the government fines, right? Then the person will say, I'm going to fine you. Understand? But just say no, fine. Is it compulsory to brush your teeth before you go out from the home? Say, if in case the police uncle stop you, and will he say, please show me your teeth? You have to do E to the police uncle? No. In case you ever got caught that in the morning you haven't brushed your teeth, can he impose any fine against you? Is there any rule? No, not in that way. But now you know very well, wearing helmet while riding a motorbicycle is compulsory. In case you don't wear it, it is punishable offense. But as well as you know, brushing your teeth without you go out from the home is not a rule. No one will concern on that. But you can easily go out, you can easily schooling or whatever you can do without brushing your teeth. But still, do you go out without brushing your teeth? Do you go out without brushing your teeth? You all say no, but there may be some people, right? Usually that does not happen. Usually it's not happen. Understand? So the concepts are like brushing your teeth. No one will fine you, though you don't brush your teeth, but still you will have to brush your teeth. Understand? Those are practices. We have got used to follow these practices without imposing by laws or any other regulations, or still we do those. The concepts are also some accounting habits, right? The brushing your teeth is a good habit, ne? So like similarly, using or the following the accounting concepts is also sort of accounting habit. I think it's clear now. Now take your handout. Accounting concepts. Right. Please read. Accounting concepts. Accounting concepts are generally accepted accounting principles which are used when preparing accounts. Accounting concepts are not laws or regulations. Therefore, it's not prohibited to prepare accounts without applying accounting concepts. In some instances, where using accounting concepts mislead the users. Please read that sentence again. Therefore, it is not prohibited to prepare accounts without applying concepts. In some instances, where using accounting concepts mislead the users. That means there may be some instances where using accounting concepts may misled the people. If I suppose to use this concept, the people will be misled. So you have the right to prepare your accounts without that told concept. Right. If any accounting concept has not been used in preparing accounts which should be properly disclosed, that means when you prepare accounts, all your accounts you need to prepare using accounting concepts. But if you have not used any concept in the process of preparing accounts, you have to disclose the users that in the financial statements we prepared, we haven't used this assumption, the going concern assumption we haven't used. Likewise, the concept which you have violated, you will have to disclose. The reason is, in case you don't disclose that, the users will say, they will think you have applied that accounting concept. The reason I told, the concepts are generally accepted accounting principles, and these are the basic assumptions. As the users tend to think that the financial statements are prepared in accordance with accounting concepts, they might have misled that. If you haven't told regarding, you haven't applied the accounting concept. Clear? Now, is it clear up to now? Kian Balan? Is it clear? Right. Then, now one by one we can discuss the concepts. First one, accounting entity concept. Now the concepts will be like a joke, as all these are known to you as advanced students, right? Those who have learned even accounting standards, the companies, and almost all the lessons you have done. Therefore, the concepts will not be a big one. Accounting entity concept says the business, this is the business, the business is separated from the owners. This is owners. The business is separated from its owners. The business has a separate existence which is confined from its owners. When you see the implications of the standard, of the concept, when the owner introduces money to the business, you record that in the capital account. If he takes some money back, that is recorded in the drawings account. It's recorded in the drawings account. And owner's name and the business name are different. The personal assets of owner's account, we do not record as the assets of the business. Say if the owner has 50 million in his personal bank account, of which if he has introduced only 10 million to the business, we take the capital of the business is only 10 million, not 50 million. So these are the implications for the concept. It's very easy standard. Read it. The business entity is treated as a separate unit which is separated from the owners and all other external parties. This concept sets a certain margin to record transactions. And the meaning of the certain margin means owner's personal transactions are not recorded. Therefore, there's a margin to record. Then, example, the equity and liabilities are separately disclosed in statement of financial position. Right. The important part is the equity. Capital introduction and drawings are accounted. There is a separate name for the business. Owner's personal assets are not presented as the assets of the business. These are the examples for the accounting entity concept. Okay? Is it hard? You understand the accounting entity concept? Yes. Simply. Then go to the next. Dual aspect principle. Dual aspect. I'm not going to teach you the dual aspect principle. Read it. Every business transaction has two impacts as debit and credit. These are the dual impacts. So tell me, how do you call these dual impacts? The dual impacts, dual aspect principle. How do you call this one? That is the double entry system. We prepare our accounts in accordance with the double entry system. So the using the double entry system is again another concept. That concept is dual aspect concept. There are two aspects. Dual aspects concept. Right. Then go to the third example, the third one, the third concept. Sorry. Money measurement concept. Money measurement concept. What do you mean by money measurement? You know, in our accounting records, everything is presented in rupees. When you take profit and loss statement, all the stuff you present in rupees. When you take your SOFP, everything is rupees, rupees, rupees. Right? This is what you call as money measurement concept. In our subject, we can show in the accounts only the things which can be measured in rupees. Remember, this is an inherent limitation of accounting. This is an inherent limitation. Why? You know, in the business, there may be some non-financial factors. There may be some factors which are really important to the business, really critical to the business. Sometimes the entire business may be dependent on important non-financial details. I get a nice example into my brain. Something happened to a business. That is a plantation sector business. They were planting coffee or something. Tea or coffee or something. There was a person. He was the only person who aware how to fertilize these plants. No one in the business knew how to fertilize. What happened? This senior personnel, he anyway resigned, he went out from the business. From the day he resigned, the business started incurring losses. Up to now, see, he was a person for 20 years. For the last 20 years, the business has earned profits. Once the key management person left the business started incurring losses, earning losses, continuous losses. Finally, the company went bankrupt. What is the reason? Reason is resigning the key management person from the business. No one could find the reason for incurring losses by referring the financial statements. The financial statements fail to show that non-financial fact in the accounts. Therefore, it is an inherent limitation of accounting that non-financial factors cannot be shown in accounts. Therefore, the concept is money measurement concept. That says only the information which can be measured using financial values are accounted. That implies the details which cannot be measured using financial values are not accounted. That may generate a sort of non-communication of information, as some details cannot be tackled. Okay, now read this. Having that fact in your brain, read this. Money measurement concept in accounting means that only transaction and events that are capable of being measured in monetary terms are recognized in the financial statements. The weakness of this concept is inability to record some important factors like management skills, employee efficiencies, which cannot be measured in monetary terms. I think it's clear. Then go to the going concern concept. Going concern concept. Going concern concept. The going concern means this is your financial year, which is ended on 1st April 2020 and ended on 31st March 2021. By the date you prepare financial statements, the going concern means the business has no indication that the business is going to be closed. The business is not going to be closed in the foreseeable future. In the future which you see, the business is not going to be closed down. That the business has no any indication to say the business is not going to be continued for the next year. When you prepare the accounts for this year, you have to assess whether the business has a going concern. Right? Say, if you feel the business will not be continued for more years, the business will not be continued until you prepare financial accountments on next year, that means the business has not a going concern. Remember, this is very, very important. Right? The going concern assumption, according to the conceptual framework of preparation and presentation of general purpose financial statements, in the conceptual framework, it's clearly told the going concern is the underlying accounting assumption. This is tested in the exam. What is the underlying accounting assumption according to conceptual framework? According to the conceptual framework, the underlying accounting assumption is nothing but going concern. Going concern. Right somewhere. Right. When in the note, right, if there's a certain space, there you can write the according to the conceptual framework. According to the conceptual framework, going concern is the underlying accounting concept, the underlying accounting principle. You have to write the underlying accounting assumption. Right. So what is told in the concept? The going concern means the business is not going to be closed down, or the business operation will not be significantly limited. in the foreseeable future, in the future you will see, in the foreseeable, the forthcoming years, the foreseeable future, the business will not be closed down. But remember, no one can say the business continues for the life of infinity. The business will never continue up to the infinity. Sabbhe sankara anicca. If you are Buddhist, you know the sabbhe sankara anicca. Right? Nothing will be continued for the infinity. Everything will be changed. Right? And everything will be destroyed. Sielu sanskarayan nasana suluයි නේ. එමනි කියන්නේ. In Buddhism, I don't know the other religions, right? So the business also will be definitely destroyed in the future. So we are not going to tell about the entire future. We are talking about the foreseeable future. පේන අනාගතයේදී business එක වැහිලා යන්නේ නැහැ. කවදා හරි වෙයි අපිට අදාළ නැහැ ඒක. So if I ask you what are the implications to accounts based on the going concern, without the going concern, we may not be able to categorize assets as current assets and non-current assets, as well as the liabilities as current liabilities and non-current liabilities. Assets which are supposed to be existed within 12 months period are current assets. But the assets which will be there for a period more than 12 months are non-current assets. Sometimes you take 50 years, 20, 50 or 100 years maybe to depreciate your land and building, not land, to depreciate your building. So if you assume that you can use the building over 50 years, that means the business is not going to be closed down within the coming 50 years. We will not be able to do something like depreciation if this concept is not there. For the depreciation, you have to use a certain useful life. So our assumption, the business is going to be continued over this useful life. And the liabilities you categorize as current and non-current. Liabilities are liabilities which are settled within 12 months period and after 12 months period. So if the business is going to be closed tomorrow, can you categorize your liabilities as current and non-current? Understood? Remember, if the management, if they have confirmed that the business does not have a going concern, otherwise if the business is going to be closed down recently in the foreseeable future, then if they have assessed that the business has no going concern, thereafter you cannot prepare accounts based on the going concern concept. If you have confirmed that the business has no any going concern, then you cannot categorize your assets as current and non-current, as well as you cannot categorize your liabilities as current and non-current. In that case, in your SOFP, all your assets and liabilities you have to show as current. Nothing non-current. Neither non-current liabilities nor non-current assets. Is it clear? Kian, did you understand the going concern concept? Simple one, right? Now read this. Going concern concept. The going concern concept assumes that business will have a long life and not also be sold in the immediate future. Therefore, the business will not be closed down in the foreseeable future. Companies that are expected to continue are said to be a going concern. Companies that are expected to close in the near future are not a going concern. Assets are classified as current and non-current assets, and non-current assets are depreciated over a long period. Liabilities are categorized as current and non-current. If the going concern assumption is not practical to apply, the business should not prepare their financial statements on the basis of going concern. In such instances, the assets and liabilities should not be categorized as current and non-current, as all assets and liabilities are recognized, are realized, not recognized, are realized within the period lower than 12 months. All should be recognized as current in front of. No need to write. Place we have to recognize that is SOFE. After that, this is the going concern. Then the periodic concept. This is called as the periodicity. Both are correct. Don't you can write that one also. The periodicity. Periodicity. Right, let's see. What is periodic concept? In the going concern concept, right, now okay, right, now you all here. The going concern concept says the business is not going to be closed down in the foreseeable future. That will be continued for a long time. So the periodic concept says, anyway, the periodic concept comes as the going concern exists. As there is a going concern to the business, there is something which is ongoing. For something ongoing, we get a problem. See, there is a business which runs continuously. Then how to measure? See, assume it's raining. Raining. If it rains for more days, raining continuously, how can you measure the raining? The weather forecast says that will be continued for 2 years. Just say raining. Continuous raining. If you want to measure the real quantity of raining, when you will have to calculate that? Say you want to compute what is the total gallons of water, or the liters of water has been dropped. When you should calculate that? Question is after the answer is after the rain. You have to stay until the rain is stopped, until it is ceased. You can calculate. But is that the way we calculate the raining? Do we stay until the Rain ceased? No. How the weather report is given? The rain for the last 24 hours. For the last 24 hours, that is 150 millimeters. The rain is measured in millimeters, the height of the rain. So, similarly, as the going concern, there is something ongoing. How to measure that? We will have to stay until the business is closed down. As I told, if you are staying until the rain is going to be ceased, that's not practical. Similarly, if you are supposed to stay until the business is going to be closed down, it is not practical. So what we do is, we take a specific period. We take a 12 months period. Like to measure the raining, you take 24 hours. Right. To measure the business results, you take 12 months period. You take 12 months period and your profit, the taxes, all the details are measured with respect to 12 months period. So the periodic concept says you must select a 12 months period to calculate business results. This concept has come as there's a going concern concept. Understand? So this is the meaning of the periodic concept. What are the implications to accounts on the periodic concept? To prepare accounts, you select a 12 months period, accounting year. You select an accounting year to prepare accounts that is based on periodic concept. You make adjustments at the end of the accounting year. The reason to do all the adjustments is nothing but the periodic concept. The transactions relevant for this year, you have to adjust. And the transactions relevant for the next year, you have to adjust for the next year. Generally, all the adjustments are done as per the periodicity concept. Is it understood? Then read. Yes කියන්නෙත් නෑ සමහර අය කම්මැලි. තේරුනේ නැද්ද දෙන්නට තේරුනේ? දිනුලිටයි දෙවුනිටයි විතරයි තේරලා තියෙන්නේ. අනිත් අය තේරුනේ නැද්ද? And please answer, right? Right. Next. Read the concept. Periodic concept. The business is not closed down in the foreseeable future. The business is not closed down in the foreseeable future, right? You have that future. Foreseeable future, according to the going concern concept. Therefore, to calculate the real business results, the business will have to stay until it is closed down. As it's not practical, accounting results are calculated with respect to a period of 12 months. Example, preparation of financial statements, period of 1 year. You have to add another example. Doing all the adjustments. Right. Here, after this one, you have to write. Doing all the adjustments with respect to the accounting year. Doing all the adjustments with respect to the accounting year. With respect to the accounting year. Right. Then go to the next one. Historical cost concept. The next one is historical cost concept. You know this. Historical cost concept says assets and liabilities or the accounting elements you have to present at the historical cost, not at the current market price, especially assets and liabilities. These you need to show in your accounts not at the current market price, those should be at the historical price, should be at the historical cost, the price at which these transactions or these assets and liabilities were originally transferred. Don't recognize the increase or decrease of these. Don't recognize the changes. Understood? But think and say there are some instances we intentionally violate this concept. There are some instances we intentionally violate this concept. In the exam also this was asked, I remember. State two instances the business violate the historical cost concept. I need your answer. I want two answers. Yes, Sumaya, correct. Hansini and Sumaya both have told obtaining net realizable value instead of the cost. You know, the cost is the historical. Net realizable value is the current market price. According to LKS2, we write off inventories from cost to net realizable value. That is one answer. Another one is, Sumaya, right? Yeah, right in accounting, in providing answers. Yes, not only Sumaya, Hansani also. That is what the property, plant and equipment. We revalue the property, plant and equipment. Revaluation is intentionally violating historical cost. Historical cost. And one more thing, right? The instances where you can break the concept. Two instances. And if you suppose to use historical cost, if you use this, what is the fundamental qualitative characteristic you have used? You know the fundamental qualitative characteristics, what are those? Relevance, right? If you are using the historical cost, then the relevance is very high. This is the relevance is low. Why? Then the relevance is low. When you use this, the relevance. The reason you are showing all details relevant to the people, but the faithful representation is high. this. I have discussed this. The faithful representation, the cost is much faithful than the market price. Why? You can prove it. Right. So I was talking regarding these fundamental qualitative characteristics of accounts. If you use the historical cost assumption to prepare accounts, then your accounts are faithfully represented. Why? The example which I wanted to take is the current prices of vehicle. Anyone you are looking for to purchase a vehicle nowadays? Like all මේ වෙනකොට වාහනයක් එම ගන්න හොයන කන කට්ටිය ඉන්නවද? Are there people you are looking for a vehicle to buy? No one? Yes or no? Yes. I think this is Amesh. Good. Zainab. This is not a better time to purchase vehicles. Did you find the vehicle prices? Did you find the vehicle prices? You are asking any vehicles available? No. I am not buying and selling vehicles, but always we are much interested on vehicles. Ne? අපි සාමාන්‍ය හැම වෙලෙම ඒක අපේ ටියුෂන් ගුරුවරුන්ගේ හැටියක් මම හිතන්නේ. Not only tuition teachers, all the people, when you purchase the new vehicle before 2-3 months, that is the normal way of the people, right? We are looking for another one to buy, right? So always we are up to date about the vehicle prices. Boys are always in that way. So this very high, price is very much high. I think as a percentage, the vehicles, the price has been increased more than 50% normally. The vehicles which were available for 16 lakhs, nowadays around 25 lakhs. Right? The vehicles which were at 5 million, now around 8 million. Right? So, it's a better time to sell, but I don't recommend to sell also. Why? Always we sell the existing vehicle to buy a new one. This is a better time to sell the vehicle. So if you are planning to sell your vehicle and purchase a land, this is the time. Why? The land prices are comparatively stable this time. The people usually don't go and purchase land these days. But this is not a better time to purchase a vehicle, right? If you tend to suppose to sell the vehicle, this may be a good time. Will it be reduced in the future? Yes, that should be definitely reduced. The reason is what? The government has stopped importing vehicles. When it is stopped importing vehicle, what happens? No new vehicles come into the country. The price or for a limited quantity of vehicles, there is a big demand. The people like to pay how much which the seller says to buy the vehicle. That is the reason. This will be definitely decrease in the future, but in case this is increased by 50% in the future, this will not be decreased by 50%. Maybe the decrease will be 20 or 25%. Earlier, if the vehicle price was 20 lakhs, in case it's today 30 lakhs, in the future, the price may be stable more than 20, but that will be around 25 lakhs. That's, I think, right, that will happen. So I took that example to explain you The historical cost concept. So in the business, you purchased a car, you purchased a van to the business for 30 lakhs. The historical cost, this is the price you are showing your car or the van. But when you take the current market price, that is not 30 lakhs, that is 40 lakhs. If you suppose to use the historical cost concept, you cannot take your vehicle price as 40. This 10 increase you can't recognize today, you can't revalue. If you are using this old value, now the accounting details is much faithful. Why? You can easily prove this value. I purchased this at 30, this is the price, this is the invoice. This price you can't prove. It's hard to prove. Therefore, the faithfulness of this value is low. But this value is much relevant. When the relevant increasing, the faithful representation decreases. When the faithful representation increases, the relevance may get decreased. Right? There is a trade-off between the faithful representation and the relevance. Is it clear? In case this is asked in the exam, you must know, right? Cool. No answers. Is it clear? Yes. Then very good. Historical cost concept. Business transactions should be recognized at the historical values and changes in the price level should not be identified. This concept ensures the reliability of the information, but right here, with the historical cost concept, the faithful representation is enhanced. Faithful representation is enhanced but relevance of information is decreased. The relevance of information is decreased. And right there, in following two instances, the historical cost concept is violated. Violations in following two instances, historical cost concept is violated. In following two instances, historical cost concept is violated. Number one, revaluation of assets. Number two, stocks written down from cost to NRV. Number one, revaluation of assets. Number two, stocks written down from cost to net realizable value. Right. Now see the examples also. Example, assets are maintained in the statement of financial position at the cost. Right. Now see the consistency concept. You know the meaning of consistency. මොකද consistency කියන්නේ? Consistency කියන එකේ සිංහල තේරුම මොකද්ද? You know what is the Sinhala meaning of consistency? Consistent කියන්නේ පැවැත්ම. Not changing. Yes, Dinudi. Consistency කියන එකේ සිංහල වචනයට අපි කියනවා ඒකාකාරී භාවය. ඒකාකාරී භාවයේ concept එක. ඒකාකාරී භාවයේ සංකල්පය. In the consistency concept, it says, we discussed LKS 8, right? Accounting policies, changes in accounting estimations and errors, I discussed with you. There also I discussed this one. Consistency means that is regarding the consistency of accounting policies. You remember how did I explain, define the accounting policies? Accounting policies are specific, what? Rules, conventions, bases, practices which you should use when you prepare and present financial statements, right? So according to the consistency concept, it says you should not change your accounting policies year to year with some intention to increase the profit or decrease the profit or whatever. You should not change your accounting policies. Once the accounting policy is adopted, you have to continue with that adopted accounting policy. Understand? Consistency means the consistency of accounting policies. Policies should not be changed. All the policies you have to continue. Say as an example, the policy you are using to value the closing stock, you must not change. Please just read the note. Read it once. Read the note. Right. You understand? That says accounting policies and bases used to prepare financial statements should not be changed over year to year, and those should be constant. Example, methods of valuation of inventories should not be changed year to year. See, if you have used first in first out method, you have to continue with that accounting policy. You can't change that to WAC. But in LKS 8, I have discussed. There are some instances where you can change the accounting what are those are accounting policies, right? Accounting policies, right? Then read the next one. Try to understand, read and understand the eighth one. I'll explain. Read and understand. Right. Prudence concept. Prudence concepts. This is the easiest way to understand. This says don't intentionally overstate your profit. Right? Don't overstate your profit intentionally or unnecessarily. When there are optional ways to calculate the profit, say you have three options: option 1, option 2, and option 3. When calculating the profit with respect to a certain item, there are three options. All the three optional ways are correct. But remember, when there are optional ways, you have to select the option with which the profit you have to get minimized. Don't use the alternative of which the profit will get the maximum. Use the way with which you can get the minimized profit. That means in the process of profit calculation, profit equals income minus expenses. You have to show the lowest profit. Use all the options to use the lowest profit, to obtain the lowest profit. You know that. If you want to show the lower profit, income should be lower and expenses should be higher. That means don't recognize the income until it is really earned. Until you really earn the income, don't recognize. But the expenses, you need to recognize. If you feel the expense will be arisen in the future, you have to recognize this today. But the income, if you feel that this will be an income, don't recognize. Say as an example, as I have discussed even LKS 37 with you, provision contingent liabilities and contingent assets. When you have given a warranty for your customers, before the customers come and ask the claims, you have to record that as an expense. There's a possible obligation in the future, recognize it today. But if you have claimed warranty against someone else, against a third party, don't recognize that as an income today. Until that is confirmed, wait to recognize. But if it is something payable, recognize it today. That is the way. So, not only that, there are so many examples. You write off your stocks from cost to net realizable value. If the NRV has become lower, you write off your inventories. Recognize that loss today itself. Why? Don't show a big value of inventories that will increase your profit. Don't show it. But although the market price of inventory is rising up, we don't recognize that as a profit. We wait until the inventories are really sold. In addition to that, you make a provision for doubtful debt. That also another example, right? So these are the examples for the prudence concept, for the prudence assumption. Read it. Profit should not be unnecessarily overstated. This term explains everything. Profit should not be unnecessarily overstated. When there are alternative methods for profit calculation or assets valuation, the business should always use the alternative with which the profit minimizes. According to this concept, income should not be recognized until it is exactly realized. But expenses should be recognized when it is probable. It's very nice, right? Example, inventory written down from cost to net realizable value. Unrealized income not recognized. Provision for doubtful debts, warranties, etc. So these are the examples for the prudence assumption, prudence concept. Then the accrual concept. You know what is accrual concept? I am not going to explain that at all. But I am going to ask you a very simple question. What are the adjustments you do to be in accordance with the accrual concept? Zainab is asking a question, please. Prudence avoids future anticipation of excess profits. That's why we record revaluation surplus. Yes, that also a good example. I have told it, right? So, do we record revaluation surplus of PP in OCI according to prudence? Yes, Zainab. You remember I told you. When I explained the revaluation, I have told that. The reason to record the revaluation surplus under OCI, the surplus of revaluation we don't take as a part of the profit. We take that as OCI, part of OCI. But if it is loss from revaluation, we recognize that as a loss. Profit or the surplus from revaluation, we don't take as a part of the profit. In case you credit that to the profit, then the profit will be increased. So don't do that. Show that as a OCI, other profit. But if it is a loss from revaluation, show that as a part of the profit. You know, you make a provision for discounts allowed, right? Remember, from debtors you make a provision for discounts allowed. But do you make a provision for discounts received? Right. We assume today in the future we will have to offer a certain discount to our debtors at the time we get money from them. Similarly, when you settle your creditors, you may be entitled to have a certain discount from your creditors, but you don't recognize the receivable discount today. Until you receive that discount exactly, we don't recognize it. But if it is a discount which will be allowed in the future, you make a provision for that one. Clear, right? Yes. Then I ask the question, what are the adjustments we have to do for the accrual concept? Yes, very good. Only 4 adjustments. What are those? Accrued expenses, prepaid expenses, income receivable, and income received in advance. We make these 4 adjustments in accordance with accrual concepts. Accrual concept. Good. And in addition to that, remember, I have noticed in some past papers, what is the concept behind to recognize debtors and creditors? Based on which concept you recognize debtors and creditors? That also accrual concept. Debtors means what? Income receivable. Creditors means what? Payable expenses. So remember. Let's see. Accrual concept. Income and expenses are recognized if those are relevant for the respective period, whether financially transacted or not. Accordingly, the income should be the total amount realized for the year, and the expenses are the total amount occurred during the year. Following adjustments to financial statements are required according to this concept: accrued expenses, prepaid expenses, income receivable, income received in advance. Somewhere when there's a space, you can write. Debtors and creditors are recognized. Debtors and creditors are recognized. Debtors and creditors are recognized also according to this concept. Also according to this concept. Debtors and creditors are recognized also according to this concept. Next one, realization concept. Realization concept. Realization concept. What do you mean by the realization? The realization concept. This is regarding income. The realization concept, there is another name, revenue recognition. Revenue recognition. Realization concept or revenue recognition concept. This says, right, this guides what is the date you should recognize the revenue. What is the date you should recognize the revenue? Actually, for this concept, only that standard has come. SLFRS 15. Revenue generated from contract with customers. We haven't yet done that. Right? I'll recently do that. Revenue generated from contract with customers. SLFRS 15. That standard has come to fulfill the requirements which are discussed in this concept. Simply, if I explain, if this is the accounting year, when there is a revenue, maybe sale of goods, or otherwise rendering services. Right. When a revenue is occurred by providing services or otherwise by sales of goods, this concepts discuss under which circumstances you should recognize the revenue. whether you can recognize that as a revenue or not. That is what the concept says. Remember, if it is regarding sale of goods, if there is a contract with the customer for sales of goods, you cannot recognize the revenue until the legal ownership of the goods are transferred legally from seller to buyer. If you are the seller, until the legal ownership of the goods or the title of the goods are transferred, you can't recognize this as a sale. For just an understanding, if the legal ownership is transferred, you have to raise an invoice. Prepare an invoice. In the invoice only, the written terms are there, the goods are sold. Then only you can record this as a sale in your books. If it is an agreement regarding providing services, although the invoice or whatever the document is raised, you cannot recognize that as an income. If it is a rendering service agreement, if you have already provided the service, then you can recognize that as an income. Understand? If it is regarding providing services, until you provide the service, you can't recognize the income. Therefore, according to the realization concept or the revenue recognition concept, the concept says under which circumstances the revenue can be recognized. If it is sale of goods agreement, when the goods are sold, when the legal ownership of the goods are transferred from seller to buyer, you can recognize the sales revenue. If it is a providing services agreement, until you provide the service, don't recognize the revenue. That's it. Read now. Income for the year means the total amount realized during the year. Income from the sale of goods is realized in the moment when the ownership of the goods is transferred. Goods not in. Is transferred to the buyer. Within bracket you can write when the invoice is raised. When the invoice is raised. Then service income is realized at the moment when the services are rendered. When the service is rendered. Then see the matching concept. Match. Another important concept. The many students have misunderstood the matching concept. Matching. What do you match? If I ask you a simple question, tell me. What do you match? Matching. So what are the things you match in the practical world? In the practical world, what are the things you match? මොනවද match කරන්නේ? Clothes. You match clothes. Then what else? Is that the only thing you match in the practical world? Food. You match food. Very good. What else? Don't you match girls and boys? Right. You match girl to boy, boy to girl, right? Isn't it? You're not matching. Please match those, huh? You have to match those, huh? Without matching, right? That may be the most critical thing to match in the future, right? Match properly, otherwise problem, right? There should be a good matching. So in accounting, we are not going to match foods or vehicle or clothes or whatever, even girls and boys. We match here what? Income and expenses. You need to match income and expenses. Then profit. Remember, in accounting, you need to recognize the income first. See, what is the income relevant for the year? First, you have to recognize the income. Then you have to match how extent we have incurred expenses to generate this income. So you have to match the income. We have to take the income. This is the income relevant for the year. This is the income. Then you need to trace the total expenses you have incurred to generate this income. Expenses are matched or recognized in accordance with the extent those have contributed to generate the income. Expenses means something which has contributed to generate the income. If something hasn't yet contributed to generate the income, it's not an expense. There may be a payment, although it's a payment, yet the said item has not contributed to generate an income, then it is not an expense. That should be an asset. As an example, you paid the electricity for 2 years, this year and next year, 10,000 a year. Altogether 20,000 you paid. From that 20,000, only 10,000 is relevant here. So that is the amount which has contributed to generate the income. So expense is only the amount which is relevant. So the best example, the most common example for the matching concept is, first you recognize sales. Income is sales. But you don't take purchases as the expense. Expense is the cost of sales. How to obtain the cost of sales? Purchase minus closing stock. Then only you get the cost of sales. Why? The purchase is not an expense. Although you purchase some goods, the entire goods you purchased are not sold. The remaining amount you need to recognize as an asset, that is the stock. Deduct that from the expenses. Expense is only the cost of the goods which you have sold, that is the cost of sales. Therefore, you recognize closing stock as an asset. That is because of the matching concept. The amount which you have spent to purchase that remaining stock, you cannot match with this income. Is it clear? And you take depreciation as an expense. At the day when you purchase the property, plant and equipment, it is an asset. But if you are planning to use the asset over 5 years, you divide the asset value for 5 years. Then by and by you recognize this as an expense. When you purchase, that is an asset. When it contributes to generate the income, that will be an expense. By and by the asset will be used to generate the income. Then only it is going to recognize as an expense. I have another very nice example. Say there is an accounting year. Your credit sales in this year 500,000. From this you received cash 300,000. At the end of the year, tell me what is the amount receivable? At the end of the year, what is the amount receivable? 200,000. Assume you are going to collect this 200,000 on next year. You collect this 200,000, but you could collect only 180,000 on next year. 20,000 you didn't get. This is bad. You recognize that as bad debts. Understand the situation? Sales of this year 500,000, of which you received only 300,000. The receivable amount at the end of the year was 200,000, of which you received 180,000, 20,000 was bad debts. According to this situation, that does not match. You recognize 500,000 income in year 1. This is your income, this is income. You remember, you see, this 20,000 is an expense, bad debts. in which year the bad debt is arisen? Is it in year 1 or year 2? In which year the bad debt is arisen? Is it in year 1 or year 2? Year 2. But in which year you recognize the income? In year 1. To generate an income of 500,000 in year 1, you had suffered a loss called bad. But that is in year 2. You understand the factor I am explaining, I am emphasizing. This 20,000 is an expense which you incurred to generate this 500,000 income. Therefore, this 20,000 must not be an expense with respect to the second year. This 20,000 should be an expense with respect to year 1. You agree with my argument? Do you agree with that? You had to incur this 20,000 loss as you generated the income of this 500,000. But the income you generated in the year 1, but the loss is going to be incurred in year 2. Those are not matched. What is the option available? Don't wait until this is becoming bad. At the end of this year, make a provision for doubtful debts. If you make a provision, say 10% provision in this year, this will become an expense for the first year. You understand the ground for making a provision for doubtful debts. We make a provision on debtors for doubtful debts in order to match income and expenses. So the provision for doubtful debts, provision for discounts allowed, both are 100% in accordance with matching concept. Not only with the prudence. We make a provision for doubtful debts as well as provision for discounts allowed in order to recognize the real expense with respect to the existing year. Right. Now, matching concept. Income relevant to the year should be matched with the expense which is relevant for the year. When ascertaining the net profit, income should be recognized first, and the expenses are recognized when that expense has contributed to generate the income. Example, closing stock is deducted to calculate the cost of sales as it has not contributed to generate the sales income. Doubtful debts, warranty provisions. Warranty also same. Warranty ka tara mang kiwa story mai. That may have to be paid in the future, but that is a relevant expense for this year. Doubtful debts, warranty provision are recognized in the year those are accrued to obtain the actual profit. Depreciation is charged as an expense as it also part of the total expenses. 12th one is disclosure concept. It's very much easy. Disclosure means disclose. When you feel something important, disclose it. If you feel this is important for the users, for their information requirements, disclose that. That is the meaning of the disclosure concept. Read it. All relevant information to the users. Financial statement should be properly disclosed. This disclosure may be on the face of profit and loss statement and the statement of financial positions, or in additional notes of the financial statements. You can disclose on SOFP ke hari profit and loss ke hari natta notes ul hari karana puluh. Next, the materiality concept. I think you all remember materiality, which I discussed in companies. But this is materiality concept. Materiality concept says the accounting alternative which you supposed to use may be changed based on the value. If the value is big for the same transaction, say the same transaction, for the same transaction, If the value is big, you use option 1. But if the value is small for the same transaction, you use another accounting alternative method to account. So you purchase the machine. Purchase the machine. So the amount is 500,000. Journal entry, machine account debit, cash account credit. As you purchase the machine where the amount is rupees 150. You may ask, can we purchase the machine for 150? Say you purchased a puncher, paper puncher or stapler where the value is 150. That also a machine. Paper puncher you can use for 5 years. This machine also you can use for 5 years. But when you purchase a paper puncher, do you debit that to machine account and depreciate? No. Although it's a machine, you debit that to profit and loss as stationery. Profit and loss account debit, cash account credit. The accounting alternative will be based on the amount. That is what you call by matching concept. No, not matching. Called by materiality concept. Amount of the transaction may be change the method of accounting. Therefore, before determining the accounting treatment applicable, the amount should be considered. Example, a paper puncher purchased for the use in the office is accounted as stationery expense without recognized under property, plant and equipment, although the useful life is greater than 1 year. If the useful life is greater than 1 year, according to LKS 16, that should be recognized as PPE and depreciated. But we don't do so here. Next one, substance over form. Substance over form. That is, in the accounting we give priority not to the legal impact. Not to the legal impact. We give the priority to the substance, the use. The only example I can give for the substance over form, when you purchase the machine on lease terms, if you purchase the machine on lease term, the machine is not owned to you. It's a leasehold asset. But we recognize that as an asset. The legal ownership is not with the business. Until you make the last payment, the machine is not owned to the business. But although the ownership is not legally owned to the business, the impact, we are using the asset. We are obtaining the economic benefits of the asset. Therefore, you can recognize that as an asset and depreciate. This is called as substance over form. Impact of the transaction is important than the legal form. Example, leasehold assets are recognized in statement of financial position as those are controlled by the entity, although the asset is legally not owned to the business. Right? That is the substance over form concept. That's all of concepts. Honestly, tell me you understood the concepts. හැමෝටම තේරුණාද concepts? Right. එනවා ඊට හොඳට පාඩම් කරගන්න. අපි දැන් අර MCQ කරන්න ගියාම, papers කරන්න ගියාම ඔය concepts ටික අපිට හම්බ වෙනවා. මොකද අපිට ඕකෙන් MCQ නෙන්නේ නේ. We'll see what are the MCQs which were tested in A-level papers. දැන් මම ඔය හැම එකම කරලා දැක්කනේ ඔයාලත් එක්ක මම ratios කළානේ. ඒව කරලා ඉවර වෙලා ඔයාලව දැන් ඕනේ කරන level එකකට ගෙනල්ලා තියෙන්නේ. papers කරනකොට easily you will remember those. Right. That's all about concepts.